As Rishi Sunak announces the compensation scheme, it's also revealed that Fujitsu will probably face financial sanctions to help pay the compensation to the victims of the post office scandal, particularly if the Japanese company is found to have been at fault. Kevin Hollinrake has said that it was realistic that Fujitsu would have to contribute to the compensation if it's identified as culpable for this scandal. But we know that the post office is also culpable for this scandal, and the government is the prime shareholder. I think it's actually the only shareholder. So the Post Office Limited, masquerading as a private company, is actually a public company, is actually almost interchangeable with Royal Mail. It's been divided up into little packets to give the impression that it's separate. It's a bureaucratic fiddle, and there's been a lot of fiddling going on, and it's not by the people who've been accused and done the time. It's by the system. As ever, we come back down to this finger-wagging thing about putting too much faith in bureaucracy. Bureaucracy serves only itself. Bureaucracy could serve us, and that's what bureaucracy should do. But so often the bureaucrats are too intent on feathering their own nest, hay in their attic, newspapers down their trousers. And Hollingray has said that the government wants to find a mechanism to rapidly overturn the post office's convictions. This idea, swiftly exonerate, rapidly overturn, after over 20 years, that is a little bit rich, isn't it, really? So they're using the language of speed to disguise the fact that this is a scandal that has been so tardy and so foot-dragging as to be itself utterly scandalous. 700 people criminally prosecuted, over 700 people, between 2000 and 2014, and it's taken until 2024 to actually start talking about proper compensation, although we knew that this was an error way back. Actually, way back in 2003, it was flagged up as erroneous. So, the Hollingray says we'll be able to ascertain which individuals and which organisations are responsible. At that point in time, legal action or potential financial sanctions may be placed on them, which may well contribute to the bill currently with the taxpayer. That's what Hollingray told the Today programme. So although the government, I trust, will be putting its hand in its pocket to give out an initial sum to the victims, presumably it will be clawing back some of that from Fujitsu and from the post office later. I think, frankly, the post office as it stands should be closed. And a new version of the post office should be thoroughly transparent and thoroughly nationalised without all this fancy post office limited rubbish, which and this illusion of a private company. It's not a private company. It's doing a public service. And probably the same thing should be said about water, about gas, about the NHS. And we should simply get to the point where we're being honest about what we're doing. Of course, the NHS, of course, the post office has to engage with private companies and has to get the best deals possible. But essentially, it's something that should be controlled nationally. And we've seen what happens when private individuals intent on boosting their own career are in the control seat. They're not even single-minded on the business. They've got their eye on some sort of church appointment. It's absurd. And it's absurd that our hospitals are run by people who are not medics. Simply absurd. And they're clawing in so much money when the people who are actually doing the job are left with a need to go to food banks, are unable to park in the hospital car park. This is the nonsense. It's a nonsense when somebody who is concerned about the way hospitals, is concerned about the way schools are run, blows the whistle, is a whistleblower, and how they are persecuted, single-mindedly persecuted by the system and by the people in charge. This is wrong. And we need to fix this. And if this government can't do it, the next government that comes in needs to fix this. I will spend a bit of time over the next week talking about whistleblowing, because I think it's an important issue. And I'm talking particularly about the way whistleblowers are persecuted, and knowingly persecuted, silenced, and how present government officials, present government ministers have single-mindedly done everything they can to silence these individuals who, for very good reasons, raised issues about inappropriate practice, particularly in the NHS. And the NHS dedicates so much money, time, and paper to trying to dodge these allegations. These allegations are raised to try and improve the standards. But it's not in that spirit that the NHS responds. It's in the spirit of protecting some bigwig's job and some bigwig's pay packet. And the first thing we should be looking at. So I think I think Rishi Sunak's legislation is proposed legislation to compensate the Horizon victims is important, because it sets a precedent that we should be thinking about the victims first. We should be thinking about those people who've suffered first, and then think about who's responsible. And we need to do the same thing in the NHS, and we need to do the same thing in schools, and we need to do the same thing in the railways, and possibly in water. The thought of all that effluent flowing out into the channel. I'm not talking about small boats. I'm talking really about Therese Kofi and the nonsense that she presided over. We need to clean up the channel and then ask who is responsible. We've got it wrong. We need to clear up the mess and then look at who is responsible for that, who caused that mess, or who didn't stop that mess in the first place. We've spent too long finger-wagging about who did this, as if we're in primary school. Oh, for goodness sake, our country needs to wake up and start repairing the damage. Fix the roof, and then worry about who dropped the brick on it.